What's bonkin', everybody, and welcome to Take Your Time, a Persona 5 podcast where we play Persona 5 Royal in real time along with the in-game calendar dates. I'm Tom Marks, joined as always by Jonathan Dornbush.
Not enough time in that intro for me, Tom, but I'll let it slide this time.
Well, you know, we each have to have our own thing, our own flavor to this. So,
no, we're the same person.
We've got a fun week ahead. The week I have affectionately named Futaba Days and Summer Nights because it's basically just you hang out with Futaba during the day and then do whatever you want during a hot night. We've also are going to be talking about, obviously, the beach trip that happens at the end of this week. The dates are August 22nd to August 29th. And we're also going to be jumping into, so spoilers if you haven't gotten through this Confidant line, we're going to be talking about Kasumi's kind of 5 max rank Confidant, that more truncated one. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun week, I think.
Yeah.
Let's start off though with some housekeeping of looking back at last week's pop quiz answer. Last week I asked, what is the name of the party that Yoshida was previously a member of, and that Kuromoto is a member of and is seceding from, and all that drama and stuff. I only saw one guess. Which was Eric said, I believe the political party's name is Diet, which is actually a misconception. I didn't know any of, let me just preface, not an unfair misconception to make, because I didn't know anything about Japanese politics literally until I played Persona 5 Royal. The Diet is basically what Japan's government calls Congress, is like how I understand it. It's not literally just like American Congress, right? It's like the House of Lords. I see, now I'm getting to English politics, British politics that I don't know either. It's that sort of like it's the name for the large governing body that's made up of a bunch of representatives who then manage the government. So that's not the specific party name. The specific party name, Jonathan, did you have a guess or did you know?
I can't remember.
Okay.
At this
that's
point
fair.
in time. But I feel like I knew it
once.
Week. Yeah.
They mentioned it once in a single thing and then never again.
Yeah.
It is the Liberal Co-Prosperity Party.
Oh, okay. I do remember. Yeah, I do remember that now. Prosperity really stuck out to me. So yeah, Yeah. You just needed to say it, then I knew it. That's how it works. Yeah.
And I mentioned last week that is a kind of a reference to a real world party. It seems like the central main kind of controlling party in Japanese politics, at least right now, is the Liberal Democratic Party. And I think that's basically supposed to be like what this is a fake stand-in for, is my understanding, my limited understanding of it. But yes, it was the Liberal Co-Prosperity Party.
I love that this is essentially just forced you to learn Japanese politics.
I know, man. No, I mean, like, just to be frank, I actually really do like that part of Persona 5, right? Is that, like, it is so rooted in a culture that I am not a part of and I don't really know very well, and it does teach me things about that culture. Like, I didn't know the thing before I played Persona. I didn't know the thing about, like, the silver ratio compared to the golden ratio, right? I didn't know anything about the diet or anything like that, and I like that part of this. I like that you get to kind of learn little glimpses that teach you about it or get you curious about that stuff.
Yeah, what I like about it is, and as silly as like, not to negate what you were just saying in any way, but like, it doesn't explicitly teach you everything. Like, it talks about these things as if it's just a part of their daily life because it is for them. And even obviously we're playing a translated version of the game and whatnot. It doesn't say like, oh, the diet, and then takes an hour to tell you all about the diet or whatnot. Like, it gives you enough to, as you said, like, I can assume the diet is like Congress. Like, I kind of get the parallel from what they talk about, but I don't have a full understanding of how it works and how their party system works necessarily. But it leads you to that curiosity if you want to go look up that stuff, which I think is such a cool sort of basis for a game to teach you things. See, teachers from elementary school 20 years ago, video games are good.
Parliament. That was the word I was looking for with English politics. That was a delayed one. Anyway, we did get some viewer comments. I wanted to read one.
House. Forgot to mention that earlier. Just wanted to bring that back.
Anyway, God, that so took me off the rails. You would not believe. Anyway.
Viewers and listeners said things. Yes.
So, one comment from Sam, which was not spoilery, but looking forward, right? Sam commented on YouTube at the Dornology YouTube channel, where you're welcome to do so as well, saying, I'm interested to see what you both have to say about the Okumura section of the game, which is what we're coming up on. You know, Sai said Okumura is our next target. As it seems to be a common opinion that it's the worst part of the game for a lot of different reasons. When I played through Royal last year, though, I found it to be perfectly fine in my opinion, even if it does have some problems. I won't say yet more yet due to spoilers, but it should lead to some interesting discussion. I'm really interested to discuss this as well, because they did make changes to this section of the game in Royal, and so I'm going to be coming into the perspective of having done that already, whereas Jonathan will only have remembered the original game's version of this section. So I agree. I think it's going to lead to some really interesting discussions.
Which, when I got to, because I'd started Persona 5 when it first came out, and then played on like kind of a delayed schedule throughout 2017, and so I got to Okumura late enough for that opinion to have already kind of like taken hold with the community. Like, it was just generally accepted wisdom that this was the worst part of the game. I straight up was just told to use a guide if I didn't want to be frustrated, because it wasn't worth the hassle, and so I did. But I'm curious to see the changes, and I'm going to try to stay away from using a guide this time, just to, fully immerse myself in it. But I feel like this section is generally regarded as the least enjoyable, and I was thinking, and obviously we can talk about this off air, Tom, but I was thinking, I'm like, who can we invite on as a guest and not have it feel like it's an insult to them that we want them on to discuss the palace everyone hates?
Well, so the funny thing, and again, we're going to get into all of this once we actually get to this palace section. Yeah. But the funny thing to me was I was also very much warned about this section of the game, and I didn't find it terrible my first playthrough, right? Like, I thought it was like slow or whatever, but like I didn't find it awful. But I will echo what Sam is saying in that, and also what Sam is saying in that, like, this is the section going forward, and this is why I wanted to talk about this, is if you're following along with us, Okumura's Palace is the section that I hear people most commonly quit at. Mm-hmm. It tends to be, for me, I've either heard the Madarame boss fight, which was very, kind of a power check earlier in the game, or Okumura's Palace is where people will fall off. It's where people will say, yeah, I got to the space place and then I stopped, right? And, like, that's sort of, like, that's kind of what you expect. Or not expect, but that's what you, like... That's what I've most commonly heard, and what I anticipate people will maybe get caught up on. So, heading into Okumura, I would say I agree. Do what you can do to make yourself go at it. Don't force yourself if you're not having fun, that sort of stuff. But I also agree that I think this is not nearly as problematic as a section as it was in the base game. So we're going to get there.
Yeah. It's funny because, as I said, since I used the guide, I didn't really have a problem with it. Like, I recognized that, if I didn't have a guide, this would have been a nightmare, but I just kind of breezed through that section, so I don't have, like, a bad memory of it, but I'm going to try to, purely play through and see how it goes.
Yeah. But, so, that is weeks away still, though, so we're still a little farther away from that. Jonathan, I think we got an email as well that you wanted to read.
We did. We had a viewer or listener write into dornology@gmail.com, which you can also write into as you're listening or watching if you have questions that you don't want to throw in the YouTube chat. But Patrick wrote in and said, morning. And, they did write at a morning time. I'm not going to reveal what time because that's personal information, but it was the morning in my time zone. Patrick said, love the show. I recently replayed Catherine. I played it the first time well before I played base P5 and Royal. I was struck how Catherine presages so many of the styles and themes in P5. Maybe worth a play and discussion during a slow week or after you roll credits. They mentioned another little bit that I'm not going to mention just in case they're listening, just in case it may lead to a spoiler triggering in someone's mind, so I'm just not going to mention that part. But they also said, I locked myself out of platinuming Persona 5 Royal because I didn't look up the requirements first and refused to hang out with one character because of what they do later on. Now hearing how that also may have impacted the true ending, I know at some point I'll go back and play it all again. Again, thanks and love the show, Patrick. So yeah, you should probably go hang out with people as much as possible.
Hang out with people.
seems like a good rule of thumb. But yeah, I actually have never played Catherine.
Yeah, well, so I had to look it up, right? Because Catherine I've played. I haven't beaten it, but I've played a bit of it, and it came out in like 2011, which I didn't realize it came out so much before Persona 5, because I played it much later on, after I had already played Persona 5, and it is very similar, right? Like, they're hanging out in a cafe, kind of diner place all the time that, like, has a similar sort of vibe as Leblanc. It has very similar themes, and a lot of that is just, Atlas and that team has their style, right? But it is definitely, I think it's a good shout to say that Catherine feels very much spiritually connected to Persona in a very real way, not about high schoolers instead of infidelity, but still, you know what I mean? Like, it's very... It's very similar in that sort of vibe, and I think that's a good call, especially given the fact that there's 6 years between those two games, and I didn't even realize it had been that long.
Yeah, well, and then they did the Catherine full body version,
yes,
which was made with a team of essentially Persona staff. Working on that remaster / definitive edition. So yeah, I've never played it either. I've
it's
heard
fun.
I've heard good things. I also heard weird comparisons of it basically being as you said, kind of the Persona social aspects, and then Qbert puzzle dreamscape thing. So I don't really know what it is. I'm gonna play it probably at some point, just out of curiosity. I do know there's also some criticisms of the storytelling and depiction that are things that kind of carry over to Persona 5 as well. But yeah, I've never played it at all, really.
Yeah, and it's a very different game in terms of the gameplay, for sure. But it is, I think it's an entertaining one. Let's get into the game we're actually playing, though, Persona 5 Royal. We're going August 22nd to August 29th. Yes. August 23rd to August 29th. I put my notes down wrong. Anyway, we just decided, the gang right before this week said, Futaba, we're going to take you to the beach. We're all going to hang out with you so that you get very comfortable with us. And Futaba sort of begrudgingly said yes, because she does want to be a part of this group and wants to open up more, but also is very kind of reserved. So that's what this week is. Starting off with August 23rd, where Yusuke and Makoto decide to ease her into it by going and hanging out with her in her own room. And Makoto, very adorably, they show up and she's wearing this crazy doll head mask, right, to hide herself from them, basically. And Makoto is like, this'll be great. The bridge to every good relationship is conversation. And then she tries to talk to Futaba, and Futaba just doesn't want to talk about anything that she wants to talk about. And it's kind of awkward. And then Yusuke the entire time has been messing with her action figures, and she's super mad about it. I love this moment because you look at, it shows you a close-up of what Yusuke does to the toys, and he's, literally replaced every limb on every toy with one from one of the others, so none of them have matching colors in any sort of sense. And it's that you're a terrible person. You don't just do that.
I can't imagine someone taking my Jason Red Power Ranger action figure and just shoving Billy's head on it. That is how dare you? They are their own individuals. No, it's a really funny scene. I don't, so forgive me because I have a very limited knowledge of any anime. I assume this is just more of I forget the original name of the, that the footage is pulled from, but clearly based on the Power Rangers live action series that is actually produced over there. I don't know if the thing in game is they got a license to actually include. I assume it's just
no. I believe Featherman is the name of that, and that's that's not. It's just in game.
I forgot the name, but
it's the liberal co-prosperity party of Power Rangers, basically.
Yes, of course. I love that. That's just going to be our comparison point every time. It's a really funny moment. It totally makes sense. I think of all the days, without spoiling, obviously we're going to go through all the days of this week. A strange thing that we don't normally do on the show. I think this one might be my favorite just because of the the silly tension of it, where it's Makoto does come in, and I didn't write down all the exact wording, but I think she's like, as you were saying, the key to it all will be a simple conversation. And it's like, how is the weather? Yeah, I didn't go outside. Oh, well, yeah. we got nothing to talk about here. I love that it taps into Makoto, like the Makoto that you kind of, we thought of Makoto this way as being like a little bit buttoned up and a little bit formal and not quite knowing how to work with people her own age. And that is true to an extent, but having that come through here as she's trying to like essentially formally indoctrinate a human being into being a person. It's just this really funny moment mixed with Yusuke doing what, like, how did no one notice? I would have noticed the action figures popping instantly, but that aside, I really love this scene. I think it's really funny. I think it helps show that, like, even when there's conflict between them all, like there's conflict that is like they're kids.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and so to have these things of her being mad that he messed with her action figures, is a really funny, cute moment to like kind of get the ball rolling of actually discussion happening.
Yeah. And that's what I like about this too, is that, right, he does this thing that is so offensive to her, and then you kind of get like a scene transition, and then it's like they're bonding over it, right? Suddenly it's the thing that connects them. It's the thing that Makoto realizes, like, oh, she's fine at conversation as long as it's something that she actually wants to talk about, which frankly I think is like probably a broader rule than people who have been just for people who've been locked up in their room for 2 years.
Yeah. None of us would know how to relate to that at all.
Yeah. So yeah. I really like, and this is the start of a dynamic that I really like that we'll see more of over the week, which is Yusuke and Futaba have one of my favorite little in-group relationships in this game, because like it's Futaba's sort of like degaff attitude of like just saying what she's gonna say, with Yusuke's sort of just feeling what he's gonna feel, and it's this like unstoppable force meeting this immovable object of like both of them end up very like conflicting with each other, but never in a way that feels like mean. It's just like these are who they are, and they're like kind of always like clashing a little bit like siblings. It's very cute.
Yeah, it feels very sibling-esque, and it's this funny thing of almost immediately she insults him in the best way of essentially insulting his knowledge of or inclination toward aesthetics. And it's like, oh, you just cut to the core of this man instantly by saying that without even probably realizing it. And for her, it's just like a passing kind of like dig at him. Not, as you said, not in like a I'm mad at you way, but just like, friends talking sort of thing. And yeah, it's funny how immediately it gets there and how that kind of persists as a fun sort of relationship beat for them.
So that's the first kind of hangout day. They decide that the next day Futaba is going to hang out with An and Ryuji in Joker's room instead of her room to kind of ramp this up slowly, right? But first, we do get a free evening, I think, every day this week, pretty much. It's just like all story during the day and then evening free. And I think this is one of those royal editions probably where you'd be being told to go to sleep a lot more this week than you do. But maybe I'm misremembering that. But what did you do on the evening of the 23rd?
Yeah, someone who may remember more explicitly the base game, let us know in the comments. But yeah, this genuinely feels like a week where we would have been told to just, you're real tired from all that conversation, so please go to bed. But no, this evening, because it was the first time I could do it in so long, I hung out with Sojiro. He was finally available again. Obviously he was gated because of story reasons, but he's back, and so I hung out to get our rank to, I want to say 4, maybe 5, somewhere. So it's somewhere in the middle, but yeah, I hung out with him. What did you do?
Cool. So I hung out with Sojiro the night before, actually. That was my first night to be able to do it.
Oh.
Then this night I leveled Chihaya to 5, and this is great because now I can do that thing that we've been talking about, which is just every single day I go to Chihaya and I give her $5,000 and she makes someone like me more with magic, and I'm happy about it. So yeah, I'm not going to mention that every time I do it, but like pretty much any day it's not raining, I go and I pay her money to put social points into somebody.
Do you have to choose who the person is there, or like how does?
Yeah, you go there and you get a list of everybody and you put it in, and then she says it feels like your bond has grown with this person. And then if you're gonna hit like a level with them, if you've reached that tier, she'll even say you can probably deepen your bond now or whatever. So you know a little bit. So like for example, later in this week, Hifumi wanted to hang out, but I couldn't get her to a level. So over to the course of 2 days, I put 2 more points into her, and then I was able to get her a level, and then I leveled her up later in the week. So there's little things, right? Like you can kind of track who you do and don't need. And once again, we talked about this. It's incredibly good to, I don't remember who exactly wrote in about it. It's incredibly good to do this. It's also just fun to do some of the side things that are the like non-leveling ones, because you get fun little items or you get little extra story beats. So there's value in not always relying on this, but it is super, super valuable to just like constantly take advantage of as well.
Yeah. It doesn't take up a like time slot, does it, to go to her? And okay, cool.
It just has to not be raining. Gotcha. And it costs $5,000.
Cool.
One thing we also didn't mention today is that the approval rating has jumped from 30% to 60%. So this is the first time we're above half, which is great. Everyone loves the Phantom Thieves now, or at least 60% of people do. That's awesome.
The majority, I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this day also, I forgot, I'm just looking at my notes. This day also had an answer to the thing we were talking about with Inari and Yusuke, which is... Futaba starts calling Yusuke Inari because he looks like a fox, and she explains why that is. I thought it was like the word for like spirit fox or something. It is that foxes in old stories ate Inari, tofu skins. So that is the connection there, and that's why that connection was made way back when you're originally giving Yusuke his code name.
Yeah, I remember that conversation. Now it comes together, finally.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Closing the circle. Anyway, August 24th, An and Ryuji come to your place, and you guys all go up to Joker's room and hang out and eat a bunch of snacks.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much just good, right? Like, Futaba's just chilling and has fun and is taking part in all the conversations, and the only sort of, like, bad or like unfortunate thing about all of this is that Morgana is kind of like grumpy the whole time and like doesn't like the conversation topics that they're picking.
She like it starts off with Futaba, she brought her mask, but that goes away pretty quickly, and yeah, as you said, like this week is relatively free of conflict, which is a nice thing that you get to do when your game is 100+ hours long. Like, it is nice to be able to just take a week out of their lives to be like, yeah, sometimes it's just good, and that's okay. But yeah,
especially when they're coming off of just having finished this huge thing, right?
Yeah.
And now they get to get a little bit of summer. It's summer vacation, and they haven't done basically anything for summer.
I think Ryuji even says that at some point of like, finally we get to have like a summer break at this point. But yeah, it's what did I have from this? Futaba does pretty well during the conversation. Ryuji, of course, talks about girls as if he was getting any attention from women. An seems to talk about what I think was skimpy wedding dresses. The implication, because she was like, they show a lot of skin, and then they were like, we're not getting married anytime soon. Why are you worrying about that? And I was like, what wedding dresses are that skimpy?
I caught the wedding dress thing, but I didn't catch that they were like specifically showing a lot of skin wedding dresses.
She says that at some point so like either she was talking about other clothing and things just kind of like I missed a connection in there, or they were talking about very skimpy wedding dresses, which is not a thing I would think of for a wedding dress.
I mean, you could also like, there are wedding dresses like the popular wedding dress style that like doesn't go over the shoulder, right?
I suppose, like, yeah,
that shows a decent amount of skin. It's just got, I don't know.
I mean, that I'm
never, not a wedding dress expert.
I never allow my shoulders to be shown, so I understand.
I know about as much in this conversation as Ryuji does, so I'm not sure.
Hey, I've known 2 people who have appeared in backgrounds of episodes of Say Yes to the Dress, so I'm basically an expert.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think they go to Long Island a lot for episodes. Anyway, again, it's a day that is pretty free of strife, and already the group is kind of like, things seem to, like, she's kind of getting the hang of this. people talking thing. And it goes pretty well on the whole.
I mean, I think that this does a good job of establishing that, like, Futaba really, like, does want to be doing this, right? Like, this is the sort of, like, knife's edge that this whole week walks on, is, like, are they forcing someone against their will to, like, an introvert to be an extrovert? Like, is that what's happening here? And, like, that's, I think, made pretty clear here when she's just like, this is easy, I can do this is great, right? Where she's, like, very clearly does enjoy being in these situations, does enjoy these conversations, and she wants to be coming out of her shell. It's just hard for her. And, like, so, yeah, I think this day of, like, being conflict-free is good in establishing that Futaba is, like, not a hostage here, that she's, like, actively enjoying this.
Yeah, because as we were saying at the end of last week's episode, like, it could very easily feel like they are, as you said, forcing someone to do all this against their will, and that's not a great sign of friendship. But, like, as we see the week play out, she is open to this and does want to figure out how to be a closer friend. She just needs some help.
Yeah. But, then we have a free evening. I mean, I think that's kind of all that happens that day. So free evening. Yeah. What'd you do on the 24th?
Speaking to what you're saying about sometimes it's fun to just hang out with a person, I hung out with Hifumi, not for a new rank, but just to hang out with her. And it opened up, like, a new point for us to go to. And it was just one of those things. I think I gave her a fan as a gift. It again, not for a new rank, but just got to hang out. What did you do?
Yeah. I finished the Master Swordsman book, which is that fancy book from Jimbocho, because I just figured, like, I had a couple other things. I think my choices here were, like, leveling Oya, and I really don't care about Oya. I did this both the other times I played through Persona, where I just, like, delayed Oya because I didn't care about her abilities and I didn't care about her storyline. I mean, I actually do like her storyline. I just don't care about her as a character very much.
Yeah, I got that.
So I just sort of delayed her as much as I could.
It's very silly, but anytime there's, like, a journalist character in a movie or a TV show or a game, they're usually the one I, like, least will pay attention to, because I feel like it's just always the most stereotypical version of, like, how a journalist lives their life. And I'm like, no, it's not like that, but okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, the same with me. The first time I played Persona 5, I think I maybe ranked her up like 2 or 3 times toward the end of the game because I just had no one else to hang out with. But yeah. Oya is still being ignored on my end.
And her story is cool once you get into it, but it's just sort of, like, starts out with a lot of, like, hanging out with an irresponsible drunk adult in a bar for no reason, and it takes a little bit to get past that. And again, the abilities aren't great. So I just figured I'll just get the Jimbocho thing so that I can buy the other books that eventually lead to this technical thing, because why not? I have a lot of books I want to be reading right now, right? Like, I think I read the billiard one later in this week just because I'm like, I like, it feels like a waste of time, but I want to be reading these books, and it's summer, so we don't get the train book reading, and we don't get the slacking off in class book reading. So I figured, just, if I'm only going to be hanging out with Oya, otherwise, like, I'm just going to read this book and just unlock these other books.
That happened to me later this week, too. It was Oya or Read. I chose Read.
Yeah. So, sorry, I don't know. Oya. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to the 25th. Today, they decide that Futaba is going to help work at Leblanc, and so she's going to do dishes, basically, while you're also helping out, and Sojiro gets his big ol' happy family of kids working for free in his questionable cafe, and it's lovely. And she does a decent job, right? Like, she freaks out a little bit here and there, but you calm her down, and she's fine. And then the kind of, like, most iconic moment is this, literally, I think his name is Pompous Customer or something like that, comes in and is really creepy towards, like,
so instantly,
hey boss, looks like you got a young one this time, and it's like, oh god, dude, come on.
Like, if anyone talked to me that way in a place I owned, they would be out the door immediately.
Yeah, it's very weird.
It's so creepy. But
And then Futaba serves him coffee while wearing the giant mask and learns that she has to be polite to him.
which she shouldn't have to. No, he should have to be kicked out. But yeah that dude sucks. But it's funny, you know, I don't know what child labor laws are like in Japan. I feel like Sojiro's got a lot of kids working in that cafe.
Yeah, just don't worry about it.
But I worked in a pizzeria when I was like 15, so, you know, it happens.
It's all good.
I got paid like $3. It was wonderful. But yeah, it's another day where Futaba knows how to be a human, we learn. And given the opportunity, can do these things, and it's nice that I don't think the game this week makes too much of like a meal out of how does she be human. Like, that's not really the point of any of these sequences, which is nice because it could easily fall into like almost a parody-esque version in that way, but it's very much, no, she can get the hang of these things pretty quickly, and unfortunately just has to deal with a crappy dude, which I don't like him, but yeah.
And is proud of herself, right? Like, I think that's another exciting aspect of this day, is like, she serves the coffee and then goes back to Sojiro and Joker and is like, I did it! Yeah, serve coffee, right? And was like, fired up by her being able to do these things too. And like, I like that side of it.
Oh yeah, totally.
But that's basically all that happens that day. Free evening. What did you do on the 25th?
Yes. I did the crossword that I needed to do for that day, which was a very easy one from what I remember. I think it was about exams or finals or something related to school. It was an extremely easy one. And then I hung out with Sojiro again for another rank because I just like advancing that story. I'm excited when we get to the point to talk about that full arc, but I enjoy that one quite a bit. So yeah, I just want to get that up to, I think, rank 6, I want to say. 5 or 6. Yeah. What did you do though?
I bought the other books from Junbocho.
Nice.
I did the crossword and found it embarrassingly difficult.
It was really easy. No.
I like literally all of them. I was like, I don't know what any of these are. Like, I was so stuck on them. And then I realized that, like, because I thought it was like exams, but it was 6 letters. And then I was like midterms, but then that was too long. And I thought like final, but then I was like, oh wait, I didn't. For some reason, I don't think we thought final plural. So it was like it ended up being finals. And
yeah, I think the only reason
took me too long
for me it was easy was because I thought I did pretty closely. I was like, exams, no, that's too short. Finals, and then I looked over to the letters and saw like it was just kind of one of those as if the letters, you know, lifted off of the screen, and I just saw like FINAL, and I was like, yep, there they are, I can do this. And then it just happened. But no, there are weeks where I get stalled and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this?
I like them. I think they're fun though.
No, I love crosswords. So
and then that day I actually leveled Sojiro. I think I got him to 6. Cool. So I'm getting into the meat of the continuation of his story, which we won't spoil, but I really like I like Sojiro's Confidant line. I like where it goes. I like how it ties into the main game. So
yeah,
I'm excited to keep getting deeper into that. But now I can make better coffee.
Nice. I think I got that one too. So yeah, I think I was at the rank 6.
Yeah. Night. From there, the 26th, the gang all decides to hang out at Leblanc again. But An and Makoto first go shopping and buy Futaba a swimsuit. So they're planning towards this beach day, so they get her a swimsuit, and this day basically just consists of the boys sitting downstairs listening to the girls yelling about trying on swimsuits and going, I wonder what's going on up there, and like that's basically the whole day.
Yeah, that is the entire day. What a weird way to spend a day. Yeah, there's at like one point where I think Yusuke mentions that he's like, oh, that would be a great subject to paint. Futaba in a swimsuit, which is like...
Right. And you can be like, stop being a perv. And he's like, if you say stop being a perv, he's like, how dare you? I don't know what you're talking about, in like the perfect sort of Yusuke way that he
exactly
does.
I think I chose that one last time. I opted this time to put Ryuji in the awkward place. I was like, you should go ask Ryuji. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense for you to go ask. And then he's like, why? And it's like, because you're the weird perv. But yeah, it that's pretty much the entire day. And then then it's the evening, which is
I think Sojiro at one point comments on how it'd be It's surprising that Futaba wants to go to a beach, right?
Yep.
But besides that, it's just they try on a
Just a
swimsuit, and it's
Yep.
like kind of a funny little scene, and that's it. There's not
the
much
end.
else that happens.
Yeah. Wait, don't you remember when the big bad reveals themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's really no, which again, I like that there are just some days in this calendar that are just kind of whatever, and they just happen. It's cool.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah.
Then what did you do that evening?
I finished that book that you finished earlier in the week because I do want to go down that quest line since I didn't have the chance to experience this before.
It's long.
So yeah. Cool.
Don't rush it.
Fair enough. That is good advice because I probably would have spent a week just reading all these books. But yeah, I finished the book, so it was a pretty quiet night for me. What about you?
Yeah, so just for context, the initial book is 3. Mm-hmm. Like, it takes 3 reading things, so if you have speed reader done, it takes 2. Then you get 4 more books that are 3s.
Oh,
and then I think the final book is a 3 also. So
cool.
It's, with speed reader, like 12 individual reading sessions.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot. But again, the thing you get at the end of that line is very valuable.
Yeah. I will definitely
it's
wait.
a lot.
Yeah, I will wait for days to pop up with like slacking off in class, as you mentioned, and stuff like that.
And it's not like those things are wastes to read, right?
Totally.
Because the first one gets you guts, and then each of the 4 books after that gets you one of each of the other social stats. So
Nice.
they are like, they're still the equivalent of reading a book. It's not like it's, worse necessarily. They're just longer and more, and a lot of them.
Cool.
From there, that day, I leveled EY. So I got EY to
Nice.
2, finally, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been slacking on him, but I think I visit him later this week. Yeah.
Oh, no, actually, I mistook it myself. I'm sorry. I misread my calendar. That night, I read the billiards book, because I was planning to go do billiards at some point. I ended up not doing it this week, but I want to do it before the next palace.
Cool.
So, yeah. And what I didn't realize is you have to read that billiards book in order to even unlock billiards, increasing your technical score. I didn't realize that was the case. You have to read that book, and then that's what allows you to increase your technical level.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just immediately went to read it as soon as he was like, you should read it, because I was like, I figure it would be a waste to just go to a session.
Yeah.
But yeah, seems like it is definitely valuable to do that. Otherwise, do you just level up friendship points, I guess?
I think so. I think it might just be,
Confidant
I'm not entirely sure. But yeah. Anyway, the next day, Sojiro, this is the 27th.
Yes.
27th?
Yeah.
Yes.
27th.
The 27th, Ryuji and Yusuke decide to just come by and hang out at the cafe with you and Futaba and just say, hey, let's get lunch. And so you all just, like, eat lunch in the cafe. And it's very cute. And Sojiro's like, this is the busiest lunch we've ever had. And there's, like, there's just some funny, fun moments in this, right, where Yusuke says something to Futaba, right, that's, like, sort of Yusuke-y, and Futaba's like, you better not be hitting on me, and he's like, I would never, and then she's like, Sojiro, help me, like, it's, like, very fun little moments like that, where she's definitely, like, pushing his buttons very knowingly, and he's Yusuke, so he gets them pushed.
It's very easy to push his buttons. Yeah, and again,
I really like their relationship.
It's great. Yeah, it feels like a really great big brother, little sister sort of relationship that, I think plays out really well over this week. And like you said, again, it's just kind of a happy day where they have a good lunch together. People are happy. Sojiro is happy that Futaba is happy. It's happy, and that's good. Yeah. She's getting more confidence. They all die.
No, God. She's getting more confidence through this day, too. I think you can tell. But what did we do? What did you do on the evening of the 27th? This is where I leveled EY to 2.
Okay, cool. I leveled him the next evening. So this evening, I decided to, just because I haven't done it at all, I did one of the, like, I guess, dates with the twins, where they asked me to take them to places.
I was wondering when we were going to talk about this. Because I've not done any now, but I did most of them when I played Royal the first time.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't really know, like, what to go into it expecting, like, benefits or anything. I was just like, oh, yeah, I guess I could do this tonight. So I went to them, and they took me to Big Bang Burger, because they basically were like, eat for us, human, show us your skills and prove to us that you can do this challenge. And they're just like really demanding of you to eat this giant burger. And because of my guts and they're like, you have to do the hardest one there. And because my guts was high enough, I was able to do it. And so they were like really impressed. And then the waiter comes over and they're like, we want one as well. And they're like, you can have the kids' meal. They're like, no, how dare you? Yeah. And they just can't. They have no power here. It's great. So it's very... Go ahead.
I just think it's funny that they exist.
Yes.
Right? Like, they never... Like, their existence is never really acknowledged in the base game in the context of the real world. And now here they're, like, being mistaken for children because they look like children.
Yeah, it's like, here are two children-sized beings of this omnipotent force that you don't quite know, sitting in a Burger King facsimile, demanding food from a waiter.
The liberal co-prosperity party of Burger King.
Of Burger King, of course. Yes, thank you. And they're just like, give us your biggest... And they're like, you can have a kid's meal. It comes with a spaceship. And I forget which one of them, but they're like, I would like to see this facsimile of a spaceship. Yes. And it's great. It feels very like introducing an alien to human society sort of montage in a movie, but it was a really funny scene. I got a few Confidant points out of it with them. It wasn't like anything massive, but yeah, it was just like a cute little scene to play through that I enjoyed, because it's very different from any of the other things, because as you said, it brings them into reality in a way that is very fun to have the inverse of you going into the metaverse.
I think the primary like reward for those is cards.
Yes, there was I did get a card at the end, or a card or two, but yeah,
so you get like skill cards through those, but basically they are like the game realizing that this Confidant didn't have any sort of Confidant relationship scenes, and so it's just like you get those now, right? Because I think there are 10 of them base, and then there are a couple that you can only do on specific days that are like special holiday ones.
Okay.
So yeah, and you can look those up if you want to look those up, right? If you want to, if you're interested in making sure you don't miss those. But nothing that you get through them is like, you know, super necessary, right? They're kind of useful, and the scenes themselves are really fun, but they're total just like filler, optional, like silly side missions, right? And I really appreciate those, because the normal way you rank up the twins through their Confidant thing, which is the thing we were talking about yesterday of like or last week, the fusion calculator sort of stuff with all the bringing them specific persona with X ability or whatever. That is like, doesn't really teach you much about their characters, because every single one of those conversations with them is basically the same thing of them being like, who wrote this list? Wait, what? I don't recognize it. Like, it's just basically that over and over and over and over again until they like you a little bit more. Whereas this feels like you're actually, you know, for lack of a better term, going on dates with them in the same way that you go on dates with any of the other Confidants.
Yeah.
And they only get sillier and weirder and like go to different locations. So they're just fun. I'm glad you did one.
Yeah.
I would. They're hard because since they're not required and we have so many evenings we need to spend with people right now, they're hard to slip in until later in the game.
Yeah.
But
again, it was Oya or something else. And
right.
I chose something else.
Yeah.
Sorry, Oya. But there's gonna be an Oya fan base that's just gonna hate this show. But yeah, I was glad I did it. I don't know how many of these I'll end up doing throughout this playthrough, but I'm glad I did it. I'm gonna try to do a few others. I realized though, because I also tried to go to the Velvet Room to do some of the fusions that I need to get their process going, I realized I didn't register any of the useful persona to get this first fusion with an Ame no Azume or whatever. So I need to go into mementos in order to get any possibility of getting that. And so I just didn't do that this week, but I was like, I'm completely blocked out of doing that right now until I go get some of these older persona.
But this is what I'm talking about. Like, their Confidant line gives you really valuable things, and you can just be, like, totally miss it and not realize, like, you can just absolutely pass up the personas that you need to be making, and then way later be like, oh, I'm, like, screwed right now.
Yeah,
you know?
I was looking at a fusion calculator, and it was like, you can use these 15 different persona to mix and match to get the thing. And I was like, I registered none of them. So,
wow.
I did not do a good job. I, like, legitimately in my first playthrough, I've been trying to be a little bit better about it this time, but I barely caught personas.
Huh.
Like, I really, or if I did, I, like, just changed them out so frequently I never registered them. And so for me, it was, like, capturing the personas and focusing on that part of the game, even though it's in the title, was weirdly a very low, like, low on the list of importance.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I'm very gotta catch them all, so I try to get every single one in every single palace that I can manage to. Maybe not to, like, an obsessive degree, but, like, I really try to always capture them if I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an interesting adventure that you should keep us posted on. I'm glad you hung out with the twins. I'm glad we finally were able to talk about that, because it's something that I highly recommend trying out and then maybe putting on the shelf. Later in the game, you're gonna have more time, right, in the evenings, I think, to sort of goof around and do whatever you want to do. So, but they're fun, amusing conversations, and that's kind of half of the appeal of Persona is just the conversations. So, yeah, it's worth checking out.
Totally.
That evening, I also leveled EY. Or no, that was the same evening I leveled EY. Okay. Let's move on, because we've got a couple bigger days going on.
We do.
August 28th, you and Futaba both decide to work in the cafe again. Sojiro needs your help. Akechi shows up, and Akechi says, oh wow, I can't believe Sai-san was right, this place is great. And Sojiro immediately gets on the defensive, and it's like, I'm not going to tell you anything. And he's like, no, I'm just here for coffee. And he's like very this is a very funny conversation to me, because he's very down in the dumps and, like, unhappy, because as you see during some of these, like, when you just get little, like, voice bubbles of the public talking, the public has basically completely turned on Akechi because he doesn't like the Phantom Thieves, and now everyone likes the Phantom Thieves. So he's, like, not welcome anywhere he goes, he says. And he sort of just immediately launches into this, like, weird sort of opening up to you in a way that he hasn't for no reason. And it's, like, a very sort of blunt, like, unexpected thing where he tells you about his parents and about how his mom got, I'm misremembering the exact details, like, but his mom got, like, pregnant from some degenerate of a man, and then when the dude found out, he basically just, like, kicked her to the curb and sent her away, and what that caused him is that he ended up bouncing between foster homes almost all of his life because of this, and it's, like, a very sad perspective of Akechi that we haven't gotten before, right? Like, we didn't really know his history or his parents or anything like that. And it turns out that he's actually, somewhat similar to Joker in that he's, like, not that they went through the exact same thing, but that they've gone through hardship in a way that is, different than a lot of other people around them, and kind of have different perspectives of it, right? Like, everyone sort of judges Joker negatively, whereas, like, everyone is really loving Akechi. So they're continue to be played as, like, foils to each other, basically.
Well, and it's one of those things that I don't think, at least from my perspective, Akechi probably doesn't tell people often about this side of him. Whereas it's like the defining thing about Joker to everyone he meets. And so, as you were saying, it again goes back to the thing we've been talking about since the beginning, is, like, your first perception of someone is not necessarily the full picture of them. And from your initial reaction to Akechi, and for most of the story so far, you would think Akechi is this really big celebrity, popular kid who is just, like, fawned over by the country essentially at this point, and just leads this wonderful life. But it's like, no, there are other layers to him and other things that have gone on. And as you said, there are enough parallels between what he and Joker went through, even if they are very different cases, for, I think, each of them to empathize with one another. And because of the way your friendship has been building, I think that's why he's so inclined to tell Joker about all this.
Yeah. So then he also, but it's very just kind of like he just says it. It's, like, very blunt. And then he asks Futaba also very bluntly, like, what do you think of the Phantom Thieves? And she does, like, it's this sort of like, oh no, like, Futaba hasn't been able to handle this, and she handles it perfectly, sort of blows him off and disses him, right? And he says that he's found, even though he just got, like, weirdly shut down, says that he's found his regular coffee shop, and he really likes Leblanc, and he's going to come back. So
we'll see if he's welcome. But yeah, I mean, he starts off by being like, oh, that's, that must be Wakaba's daughter. Like, clearly he
knows who she is.
Yeah, he leads with a little bit of his wanting to get some information. So I feel as if him coming in here is definitely not completely altruistic.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that him showing some personal side of him, like, I do think he does that a little bit to want you to feel some sympathy for him, but I also don't think it's totally 100% maliciously intended. Like, I do think he is not acting in, like, a black or white sort of scenario here. I do think there are layers to it.
Yeah. And then that evening, Sojiro at one point mentioned fireworks during the day, so Futaba goes off and gets sparklers because she wants to see fireworks, so she just goes and gets sparklers, and Morgana kind of very adorably follows her from a distance to make sure that she can do it on her own, and says she does great and did it on her own. And, like, I like that Morgana is just, like, making sure Futaba's okay, right? Just but also letting her do it herself.
Yeah, he's being a protective older brother as well.
Yeah, and then gets rewarded with it by getting smoked in the face with fireworks.
That poor kitty. Yeah, it's a funny, cute moment. I don't know how easy it is to buy fireworks, I guess, but
apparently sparklers are illegal.
Apparently, but yeah, I lived by the beach and when I was growing up, so we would often have fireworks at July 4th and everything. But it was always that thing of like, oh yeah, someone got these fireworks from like up in Connecticut on they had to drive like 3 hours out of the way and came back down to bring it to us, and I'm like, ooh, fireworks. But here it was just like, yeah, let's light them in the street and have fun. But yeah, it's
the legality of fireworks is one of those things that definitely differs even within like the US, right? Depending on where you are. It's illegal where I am, and I wish that I could just like go get some sparklers just to get some sparklers. That's cool. And it's like you said, it's a very fun little just like Futaba experiencing things she's missed out on, and like sort of finding her joy again. And
exactly,
I really like that. And Morgana kind of taking the brunt of it, unfortunately. Yeah. Another theme of this week is Morgana just kind of getting dumped on occasionally.
Yeah, poor guy. But yeah,
and then we have an evening, and I leveled EY again.
Nice. I leveled EY this night for level 2, so I was only getting him there, but it also maxed out my proficiency to max rank. So,
hey, congrats.
First max rank. Excited to fill out that star, even though I don't understand how the numbers match up to the way the points increase. I've never understood that graphic. I don't know if it ever changes, but yeah, max rank there, so happy about that. But again, pretty quick, quiet day, and then we get to the big one.
Yes. Oh, that evening I also got a smoothie, and that leveled up my kindness to 4.
Oh, you could have gone. I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, it's such a like structured week. I probably can't go do that. I
actually forgot about this. The crossword, I think, leveled up my knowledge to 4.
Nice.
And the smoothie leveled up my kindness. No, maybe I'm misremembering that. Oh, no. Never mind. I leveled up knowledge. I am at 4 on everything now.
Nice.
I leveled up kindness from a smoothie and then knowledge from hanging out with Hifumi the next day.
Okay.
So I am at 4 on everything now, which I'm very happy about.
Cool.
But let's get into the final day, which is a big one, the beach day. So this is an iconic scene of this game, right? We get a animated cutscene of everyone coming out in their swimsuits, and this is actually has a moment I really like, which is An and Makoto come out, and Ryuji is like gawking at An doing like the grabby hands, which is like so inappropriate. I love what An does, because An just like puts his arm around her arm around his neck and just starts like punching him in the stomach, like jokingly, like they're siblings, and it like so grounds that moment in like Ryuji's being gross and An is like handling it in stride to a certain extent, and like they are like, it fundamentally shows that even though Ryuji's being like a gross teenage boy, like those two have a like friendship that is very like, they've known each other longer than anyone else in this group has known each other, right? And like,
Yeah.
It's a weird sort of mix of a thing because he is being very gross, but like the way she reacts to it is very like older sister picking on little brother in a funny way. And I don't know. This whole beach scene is very iconic though, and it's very fun, full of a lot of silly moments, a lot of little questionable moments here and there, right? But
yeah,
overall, I really love this scene. I think it's just a fun day of them all goofing off and hanging out.
Yeah, no, there's stuff to the day that I really, really enjoy. I hate the Ryuji moment of that Ryuji and On interface because it's just so exaggerated and gross.
Yeah, like the grabby hands are just too much.
Like no human being who is friends with someone with any modicum of like human decency would do that. So it's just like real and I think like moments like that when I didn't care about Ryuji's backstory and know that there is more to him than this sort of superficial version of him, I guess, is like as that being sort of like one of the moments that stuck out to me from my first playthrough of Ryuji. It was like, oh, he's just gross. Like that is where my brain always was with Ryuji. And so like even watching it again, I still think it is unnecessary in the extent to which he acts that way. Like there was a way to get across, I guess, the idea that like a teenage boy who is friends with an attractive teenage girl would be attracted to her without him doing that. Like there would be a way to convey that, but I also know that it is somewhat sadly entrenched within some stereotypical things that kind of get a pass in anime. Sometimes and just in general in art, I think for years, but it's a bummer moment for me to see Ryuji act that way, but I agree that On handles it very well. And I love the strength that often gets shown of the female characters in your party and just wish it didn't have to come sometimes at the expense of some of the guys acting awful. But
yeah.
yeah. Other than that.
So the kind of highlights of this beach trip to me are like, it's the boys go off, like the girls go off and to go on a banana boat and the boys all just start like trying to pick up chicks in like the most terribly tactless ways, right?
They just walk up to random women.
And it's the thing I like about it the most is that they don't just walk up to random women. There's like moments where there's one moment where a woman's walking along the beach and the three of them kind of like triangulate and like box her in, and
it's
she's
insane.
like really horrified by it because it's really, really uncomfortable and awful. And like they thankfully completely are like, you know,
shut down it.
Like this is all presented as them doing dumb stuff badly, right? Like it's not like they're rewarded for this behavior, but like it's really weird that they go after it this way.
It's so it's so funny to me.
Abandoning Morgana with the stuff the entire time too.
Yes, true. They do leave Morgana behind to watch everything. Yeah, it's that wild idea of, I guess to me it's like, okay, you all approach this one woman. What are you all gonna do now? Like, what is the strategy to flirt here? Really?
Yeah.
It's. I'm glad the game does not reward as like suddenly they're all, you know, hooking up at the beach. Like, no, they fail as they should at every moment.
There's the notorious return of the guys that have been the kind of stereotypical characters from that abducted Ryuji to cross-dress him, which we can kind of breeze by because it's just sort of like more of like, this didn't need to be in here, but okay, sure.
Yeah, it's slightly changed from the first game as well, continuing with the theme of the idea that I guess I think the original game's version is a little bit more like a bit more abduction-y, I guess.
It's more predatory.
Yes, yeah. It's much more predatory, and I think here the idea is to make it a little bit more just like they're really trying to include him because they are excited by the potential for him to be there, but like it's clearly something he doesn't want.
The kind of fundamental bottom line is that whole scene could just be clipped out and removed from this entire beach day, and literally nothing would be wrong about it, and everything would be fine, and it would like the game would not suffer for it. Right?
Exactly.
It just is like unnecessary.
Yeah, and as we mentioned with the first scene with them, I'll just point people to, and I can probably drop it in the description again. But Laura Kate Dale's article about it on Polygon, sort of about how the changes didn't actually changed that much demonstrably. Is a really great read that you should go check out if you haven't already.
Yeah. Some headlines also. Yusuke buys some lobsters, because Yusuke buys some lobsters. Another iconic moment within this iconic trip.
As you do.
Some creepy dudes hit on and Makoto, but are like really predatory. Like, hey, come on our boat. There's gonna be celebrities, and it's like really gross.
Yeah.
But obviously, An and Makoto could beat the ever-loving crap out of them if they tried anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a sort of montage of them like burying Ryuji and playing volleyball. And finally, as the sun is setting, Futaba opens up a bit in a way that she hadn't fully, like, in these other trips, where she was just hanging out with people, but now she's actually talking about herself, and she starts talking about her mom and, like, how she was feeling and how she believes that her mom was killed because of her research, because of her research basically reveals that her research pretty much explicitly understood what palaces were and what treasures were and how to affect palaces. Also talks about how if you kill the shadow of a person, they'll shut down. And Futaba mentions that she didn't jump into the road. It was more like she fell into the road, and she thinks that that's what happened to her. So she thinks that somebody in the metaverse, probably these people who gave her the fake suicide note, killed her mom. And the gang then thinks, well, probably this is connected to this other person that these other people had been mentioning were in the metaverse. So this is all tied in. And Futaba explains that she wants to join the Phantom Thieves, not to change people's heart and reform society, but just to learn more about the metaverse and what happened to her mom and find who did it, basically.
Yeah, and I think all of this is really great, as we've sort of said before, like, set up for things to come. But yeah, it really helps crystallize, I think, some of the hanging threads of what's come before. Like you were saying, this other person in the metaverse, these mental shutdowns, like this gives us a little bit more reasoning of how that all ties into what's going on here. It helps to, I think, bridge the gap of what we were sort of knowing as we were going through Futaba's palace versus what the characters knew, and kind of like bring things to a head together, so that we're all on the same page. But yeah, I really like it because it does give this other weighted personal importance now to the group. Like, and again, there's even a sweet moment in here where Futaba like asks to be part of the group, and Ryuji's like, you're already part of it. Like, you don't need to ask, you're here.
But then also uses that opportunity to just like put down Morgana more and be like, you're more useful than Morgana was, ha ha ha. And Morgana's like really sad about it.
Yeah, it's like, why you gotta just keep getting a cat while they're down.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sad. But
Futaba gets her code name though, so that's nice.
Yes.
Codename Oracle.
Yes. I enjoyed this one because my girlfriend was watching with me as I was playing the scene, and they asked to choose the three, and she's like, all of them are bad. None of them would be the good codename for her, and then it's, of course, not any of those three. But yeah, Oracle's a good one. I really like the scene a lot, and I think what it sets up and how it adds to the complexity of your goal in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with that wrapped up, everyone happy, Futaba motivated, everyone saying, you did it, you passed your test of being in the world. We get a scene of the SIU director again, talking about how glad he was that the Medjed thing turned out even better than expected, and the Phantom Thieves' popularity spiked more than they wanted even. So clearly this is playing into his hand. He maybe had some setup of the Medjed thing somehow, and that he says it's time to dispose of any unnecessary trash at this point. So he's up to no good, and things might be brewing bad for the Phantom Thieves in the background. But before that, we had a free evening.
More importantly.
Yeah. After that, we have a free evening, I should say.
Yeah. I worked at the Beef Bowl shop because it's the date benefit of working on a day that the 29th of the month. So I did that.
Cool. I leveled Hifumi.
Nice.
And that got me a really good ability for Mementos cash grinding, which is when you win a fight in a single turn, you get like double money.
Oh. Okay.
So there's some really, like, you can get just nutso amounts of money with this. And then she also gets one, I think, that gets you more money when you do an all-out attack. And once you get that, and you also get the Chihaya, like, money boost going through Mementos, you just get absurd amounts of cash.
Just wild. I can't wait to be just disturbingly rich.
Yeah. Then, like I said, that leveled my knowledge. But then after the free evening, we get a couple moments. Ryuji first calls and says, oh, summer vacation's almost over and I haven't done any of my homework, so I'm going to come study tomorrow. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. But then also Morgana wakes up in the middle of the night having that sort of like seeing himself as a shadow nightmare again, kind of being like real sad about it and asking Joker, like, what if I turned out not to be a human? And you can be like, well, I'd be cool with it. And Morgana's like, well, I wouldn't be cool with it. And then Morgana thinks he's basically useless to the group now, and it's like just super down.
Not
and that deepens your bond, and you get a level up.
Yeah, friendships being on shaky ground is really how I see the evolution of a friendship going. Yeah, it's a sad week for Morgana for sure.
It is. It's a very sad week, but that's our whole week. We dug into some of the other stuff like the twins. Yeah. So maybe we hold Kasumi for next week.
Yeah, I'm down. Because
we're already sort of out of time. So sorry for that bait and switch in the intro there, folks.
You've got more time if you haven't hung out with Kasumi.
Well, we should just take our time, I guess. So next week we will talk about Kasumi a little bit more, assuming it's not a crazy busy story week. I don't think it is, but I don't remember exactly. We're getting to the point now where we have a little bit more story to go before we get fully into Okumura's palace. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. I'm excited for what's coming up.
We're getting into it.
Yeah, we are. There's gonna be some good story beats to talk about. But before we go, let's do some quizzes. Jonathan, do you have a Persona pseudonym for me? I do indeed. I again should have written the Futaba ones down, so I apologize if I've done this one before, but I don't think I have. The alias for this one is the Envoy of Slumber. Oh, I do know this one. Is it Sandman? Yes, it is. Yeah! Congratulations, you got that one as well. Little moon-faced guy. Yeah, with his little sack over his shoulder. Little sack, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a good one. Hooray! But I believe you have a pop quiz question as well for us. Yes, I do. So, one of my favorite moments in all of the Beach Day, and I think an iconic moment that everyone will remember, that gets called back to in the anime, it gets called back to in Persona 5 Strikers, it gets called back to in Thieves' Den stuff in Persona 5 Royal, is Yusuke spending his last dollars on lobsters. So I have to ask, because this is a great moment that we skipped over, and this is maybe an easier question because of how iconic this moment is. Why did Yusuke buy some lobsters? It's a great question. That's the question. Let me know in the comments at YouTube, or the Dornology YouTube channel. You can also email us at dornology@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at Tom R. Marks or at JM Dornbush. I screwed that up this time. No, it's JM okay. Dornbush. I had a hard time a couple weeks ago logging into my Twitter because I was like, why isn't John Dornbush working? And I'm like, oh wait, that's not it. But yeah, so you got it. Yeah. You can reach out to us anywhere there. We of course love to hear from you. We love to hear either your pop quiz question answers or just what you think about what's going on, what just happened, what's coming up, any of that. We really do love engaging with the fans, so hopefully you enjoy it too. And of course, if you do like the show, leave us a positive review, give a plus, subscribe, thumbs up, any of that stuff. Just, it helps us out, and we appreciate it. And we like to hear from you. We do, and just wanted to say a huge thank you. I get these emails, so Tom wouldn't know. But because of all of you who watch this show on the YouTube version, that channel hit 500 subscribers. So thank you to everyone who has been watching and tuning in and wants to say subscribed enough to get it every week when it drops. We really appreciate it, as Tom said. We love doing this. We love the game, obviously, but we love knowing that there are so many other people who want to share in that love of this game. So it's great to have you all out there listening and watching. So thank you. We're as things are ramping up, we're getting into the meat of the story. I think the main overarching story is starting to look at that other metaverse user, and what could be going on in the background. 50 hours in. 50 hours in, we're about to get to the meat of it. Actually, we're not even halfway through. So thank you much for sticking with us. It's getting late. Unlike this week, Morgana is going to tell us to go to bed. And thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. So long.